Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Find Your Einstein Friday. My name is Scientist Bond, Covalent Bond, and today I'm going to be sharing another super sweet science experiment. Have you ever watched a good episode of Forensic Files or CSI and wondered just how they're able to extract that DNA for their cases? Well, then this is the experiment for you. Because in today's experiment from Science Buddies, we're going to be extracting DNA from a strawberry. Let's talk about DNA. All living things come with a set of instructions stored in their DNA. DNA is short for deoxyribonucleic acid. Whether you're a human, animal, vegetable, or even bacteria, each cell will have DNA inside it. Now, DNA is the blueprint for everything that happens inside the cell of an organism. In humans, DNA can determine our eye color, our hair color, the size of our nose, or even how our lungs work. Scientists study DNA for many reasons. They can figure out how the instructions stored in DNA help your body to function properly. They can use DNA to make new medicines, they can genetically modify foods to be resistant to insects, and they can figure out the suspect of a crime. They even can use ancient DNA to reconstruct evolutionary histories. Now, how do scientists get the DNA out of a cell so they can study it? This is called DNA extraction, and today we're going to use household items, like you see here, to create our own kit and extract DNA. During a DNA extraction, a detergent will cause the cell to pop open or lyse, so the DNA is released into the liquid solution. Salt can also be added to make the tiny strands of DNA clump together. Then the DNA can be precipitated or come out of the solution by adding alcohol. So some questions we're going to consider before this experiment. First, why are chemists great for solving problems? Because they usually have lots of solutions. Okay, for the real question, do you think you will be able to see the DNA without using a microscope? And also, how come we chose to use strawberries? So let's get started, but just as a reminder, as we can't be together in person, don't forget to have adult supervision. First, we're going to review our materials. We need quite a bit of materials today, but it should be things that you need just in your house. So we're going to need some measuring spoons. We're going to need rubbing alcohol, so it's going to be a half cup that you see here of rubbing alcohol, a half teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup of water. We're going to need 1 tablespoon of liquid detergent, like you see here, a glass or a small bowl, cheesecloth and a funnel, and you're going to need just enough to fill the inside of the funnel. You can get cheesecloth at Target or Stop and Shop or Walmart. A tall drinking glass, 3 strawberries, a resealable plastic sandwich bag, a test tube, or if you don't have a test tube, you can use a small glass or a jar just like this. This is a small mason jar. And a bamboo skewer, which you can also get right at Stop and Shop or Walmart. And you might need, it's not listed, but I actually have a cell phone here so that way we can time our process. All right. So just a few helpful tips. First, it's always helpful to have all your supplies ready before you start. Clear your surrounding surface area, and as mentioned before, you should always have adult supervision. Okay, so first, we're gonna take the rubbing alcohol out of the freezer. Okay, so first we are going to mix a half teaspoon of salt with 1/3 cup of water and 1 tablespoon of dish detergent. This is going to be our extraction liquid. So you're going to mix it up good. Make sure it's well blended. There we go. We're going to set this aside. Next, you're going to line a funnel with cheesecloth. So if you look here, the cheesecloth is about 12 inches long and 6 inches wide, and it fits right here inside of my funnel. So it'll also depend on how big your funnel is. So we have that ready. Now we're going to remove the green stems that we see here from the strawberries. And we're going to place them in our resealable sandwich bag. I'm going to seal it up real tight, but you want to make sure you get as much air out as possible. Now we're going to squeeze and smash the strawberries for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer here. Now we're going to add 3 tablespoons of the extraction liquid we made to the strawberries in the bag. And again, we're going to push out the extra air and reseal the bag. we are going to mix it all up. Now the liquid detergent will help break the strawberry cells open, allowing the DNA to spill out. The salt helps create an environment where the different strands of DNA gather together in a clump, making it easier for you to see them. Do you notice any differences in the mixture after we mix it around with the extractant liquid in it? It should appear lighter in color and more bubbly or foamy. As you can see here, there's lots of foam on the top of mine. Now we're gonna pour the strawberry mixture from the bag into the funnel, and we're gonna let it drip into the glass until there's very little liquid left in the funnel. You may need to be patient as it can take some time for the liquid to filter through the cheesecloth. Be sure not to let any pulp go around the cheesecloth and end up in the drinking glass below. If this happens, you will need to pour the liquid through the cheesecloth again into a new drinking glass. And as you can see here, we have our liquid starting to filter through into our drinking glass. And we're just going to wait till it all filters down. Once all your liquid is in the glass, you're going to take the cheesecloth out and throw it away. And then we're going to pour the contents of this glass into the small jar or test tube that we have. So it's about 1/4 full, depending on how big your glass is. Tilt the jar very slowly and pour a 1/2 cup of cold rubbing alcohol down the side. The alcohol should form approximately a 1-inch deep layer on top of the strawberry liquid. If you have a small test tube or jar, you will not need all of the alcohol. Do not let the alcohol and strawberry liquid mix. The DNA will collect between the 2 layers because DNA does not dissolve in alcohol. When alcohol is added to the mixture, the rest of the mixture, except for the DNA, stays in the solution, while the DNA precipitates out into the alcohol layer. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so now we're going to study the mixture inside of the jar. The strawberry DNA will appear as gooey, clear, white, stringy stuff. Do you see anything? If so, where in the jar is it? Hint, you know that DNA precipitates into the alcohol layer, so that is probably where you will see some DNA. You can collect the DNA with a skewer or another thin rod. So we have our bamboo skewer here. We're going to dip the bamboo skewer into the jar where the alcohol and strawberry layers meet. We're going to pull up on the skewer and we should find some white stringy stuff on the skewer, and that would be the DNA. So here's a first piece of our DNA. I don't know if you can see that from over there. Now this is our strawberry DNA. The whitish stringy stuff on the skewer is DNA containing strawberry genes. As mentioned earlier, scientists can use DNA for a variety of reasons that are helpful to us, and now you know how it's done. And here's a close-up of our strawberry DNA genes. All right, so let's recap. How did this work? The liquid detergent helped break the strawberry cells open, allowing the DNA to spill out. The salt helped create an environment where the DNA strands of DNA gathered together in a clump, making it easier for us to see them. And lastly, the alcohol helped precipitate the DNA out of the solution because DNA is not soluble, meaning it doesn't dissolve in alcohol, especially when it's cold, and we were able to see the DNA and extract it more easily. So back to our questions. Why are strawberries a good fruit to experiment on? Well, because strawberries are octoploid, meaning they have 8 copies of each type of DNA chromosome, making the DNA easy to extract and see. For comparison, human cells are diploid, meaning they only have 2 sets of chromosomes. So our key takeaways. First, DNA, or short for deoxyribonucleic acid, is the blueprint for everything that happens inside the cell of an organism and can determine our eye color, hair color, the size of our nose, or even how our lungs work. If you really enjoyed this experiment, you might be interested in a career as a biological or agricultural engineer. Let's see who can extract DNA from a strawberry. And as always, we'd love for you to send us photos or videos of your results. Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our time. I hope you had fun, but before we go, it's time for our Find Your Einstein Funny. Are you ready? What type of photos do biologists take? Selfies. Well, that's it for today's episode of Find Your Einstein Friday. Follow me, Scientist Bond, Covalent Bond, as I share more wild and wacky science fun. Until next time, think like a proton and stay positive.